Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Dana Truppiana and I cover infamous gangsters every week in a true crime-like format. My show, Mob Times, comes out on Tuesdays. If you like learning about the lives and legacies of some of history's most infamous gangsters, if you like true crime, if you like mafia content, and now, if you like the history of rap artists that got into public beefs that led to their demise, you've come to the right place because that is what we do here. Before I get into it, I do have to mention the shirt. This is a shirt that I've had for a really, really long time. Like, I've had this shirt years. Pretty sure I got it at Burlington in like the big and tall section. I love having oversized shirts to sleep in. The other day I was going to sleep, I had this shirt. I was like, oh my God, I gotta wear it on my Tupac video. I can't not wear my Tupac shirt in my Tupac video. So this is what my shirt looks like. Super cute, I know. All right, this is part 2 of Tupac. If you remember from part 1, I broke down exactly what I plan to do here. I want to do a few parts on Tupac alone. I want to do a few parts on Biggie alone. And then I want to do probably only one part about the beef that led to the infamous East Coast versus West Coast beef, and the beef that would eventually take the lives of 2 of history's most famous rap and R&B artists ever. Now, here's a quick recap of part 1 so you don't have to go through the entire thing if you don't want to. I still suggest you go watch part 1. There's a lot of details that are in part 1 that are super interesting, but for those of you who don't want to go through it, I'll just go through a quick recap right here. So we went through Tupac's name, we went through how it started off as something else, and then it got changed to Tupac Shakur when he was a year old. We went through his mom's epic fight with the government, where she fought a case that she was facing 300 years behind bars and came out victorious, fighting this case at 9 months pregnant, about to pop, and getting her and her 20 co-defendants all found not guilty after a domestic terrorism case. So that's huge, like big moves from Tupac's mom. Tupac followed in his mom's footsteps, taking part in a fundraiser for Jesse Jackson at only 13 years old. He got involved in the community, and he pretty much helped in any way that he could. We went through the line of succession of men that Tupac would believe was his father, and none of the 3 men that were believed to be his father ever had a DNA test to back up the fact that they were his father. We went through Tupac's family's journey from New York to Baltimore to California, and why and how shit started to go sour. Tupac signed with TNT Records, he would tour with Digital Underground, and then he would sign with Interscope Records, a much larger label. We went through his first album and how successful it was, how he started starring in movies and all of that. He became besties with an up-and-coming artist named Biggie, who was being managed by another up-and-comer named Puffy, and how he became besties with a gangster that he was using as kind of like a case study for a part in an upcoming movie. But everything came to a screeching halt one day when a girl called the cops regarding an incident in Tupac's hotel room with him and that gangster that he was doing a case study on. And suddenly, Tupac was sitting in jail and looking at a very long prison term. Now, after that gangster gets off on these charges, Tupac goes to a studio to record a part on one of Biggie's rappers' songs, and he's robbed at the entrance of this studio. Now, this just so happens to align with him coming out and saying that he thinks that this gangster set him up. During this robbery, Tupac is blasted 5 times. He took holes to his arm, his stomach, his scrotum, his butt, and his leg. Now, while all of this is going on, Biggie and Puffy are upstairs in the studio that he's on his way to. This started beef between Tupac and Biggie and Diddy. Tupac believes that Biggie, at worst, had something to do with him getting jumped, and at best, knew it was coming and didn't warn him. When he's asked about these charges, Tupac said, "I've been on probation for shit that people get turned loose on. You know what I mean? I went to jail for a year, not for grape, but for touching her. They couldn't even get me on for touching her. And, you know, if I go to any club, every there is grabbing on me and touching me. And I went to jail for doing the same thing. And I didn't even do that. You know what I'm saying?" And that is true. He caught a charge for assault for beating up 2 dudes on the street when the only thing that got him caught was his interview saying that he did it. They had no proof that he actually did it. He totally could have been making it up, but he went to jail for 15 days for the beating that he gave them And he ratted himself out in the media. So, like, yes, it is true that he goes to jail for shit that people get literal tickets for. Nobody gets put in jail for 15 days for beating somebody up. That's just not a thing. But this girl getting assaulted in his hotel room, he framed the entire thing as like a government setup. He acted like it was the government that wanted to take him down. So they came up with absolutely anything that they could to get him behind bars. He said that they came at him any which way they could. They sent police after him to off him. He had the IRS come after him at one point, and they couldn't figure out how to get him behind bars. So they just went the easiest route they could, which is a grape charge. Right here, I'm gonna stop. I hate that I have to talk like this, okay? I absolutely despise it. It irks my soul. It's hurting my bones to use these words. But I am very tired of being shadow banned by YouTube. I hate it. I don't like it. So I'm very sorry that you guys got to deal with this, like, politically correct, stupid words that I have to say in place of the real ones. But if you go look back at my videos, I have videos that are hour plus long and have like 10 views on them, and I'm tired of it. So we're saying these stupid words so that I'm not consistently shadow banned on every single social media platform anymore. Okay, I'm done. I give up. I give in. They want me to use these words in place of the scary words. That's what I'm doing, okay? I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to trivialize these words. I'm not trying to make them mean any less. I am just trying to get my own content to be able to be spreadable. So that's why I'm using these stupid made up words, okay? Okay. So anyway, Tupac went on to say, if I diss this biatch, the perfect way for her to get back to me is to say that he graped me, because she can sue me. It's not just like I'm saying she's jealous. She can make millions if she do it right. She can get some guys and they all plan it, and I do everything I'm supposed to. She can make millions. My co-defendants to this day have never been to trial. He said that before she called the police that day at the hotel room, she called her lawyer, the lawyer that would be representing her in the civil case. So he pretty much said, like, this was 100% this girl trying to go and make money off of me. It was the government trying to put me behind bars. He had a whole lot of threats and theories and opinions, and none of them was that he did anything wrong, and none of them is who I think actually did it. Now, in this interview, it's pretty clear how badly Tupac hates Biggie. He talks about how they used to be friends, but how he and Puffy got on the radio and started lying about things and started twisting up the facts to try to twist his memory, doing all kinds of bad stuff. At one point, he compares Biggie to Hitler. Like, he's got that level of hate for him. Like, he hates this man. Now, when I say that, that is not to say that the government wasn't actually trying to get Tupac locked up, because they were. I fully believe that to be true. But two things can be true at the same time. The government could have wanted you locked up, and a girl could have gotten S8 in your hotel room by a room full of dudes after you invited her over and left her in a room alone with 3 of the dirtiest dudes you had ever met in your entire life. The government could have wanted you locked up, and Suge Knight could have really wanted to sign you. So he sent Ayanna to go to your hotel room and lie about things that may or may not have happened and get you and your boys locked up. Or it's entirely possible the government could have set up this whole thing and they wanted to get you locked up and they locked you up. It's really not up to me to say. But if I had to be objective about it, I would say it probably was not a government conspiracy. I'll go through the theory that Suge Knight got him arrested in a few minutes, but that is what I'm going with. I personally fully believe it was Suge Knight that had him arrested. Especially since he had to bail him out while he was in jail. If it was a government conspiracy the whole time, and the whole point was to get you thrown behind bars and throw away the key and keep you behind bars, why would they give you a way out? Why would they allow you to pay to release yourself if they just wanted you sitting in jail? It just doesn't make any sense. Why would you get found guilty and only serve 10 months in jail? It just, again, it doesn't make any sense, which is why I tend to lean away from the government thing. I don't think it was the government. I think it was Suge. I know times were different, and people didn't get thrown in jail for life the way that they do now on every little thing. Like now, prison is a for-profit corporation and you'll get thrown in jail for the rest of your life for doing the smallest little thing wrong. It was not like that back then. But still, if the government wants you in jail, they proved with your Black Panther mother and all of your Black Panther relatives when they sent people to off them and when they put them on trial for 300 years, they proved that they could get it done pretty easily and not by some girl getting essayed in your hotel room. So personally, I don't think that's the truest route. And this is where, for me, things get a little murky. Because on December 1st, Tupac is found guilty of sexual abuse and he's given a minimum of 1.5 years in prison. But he's also given a $3 million bail. Why would you get a bail payment to get out of a sentence? I've seen people say, well, it was an appeal bond, but that doesn't really make any sense. You don't get out on bond with an appeal. I've never heard of it. Usually you get arrested, you get bail, you have a court date, you get a sentence, you serve your sentence. That's it. I have never heard of a bail being offered after being found guilty of a crime. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, this right here is where the East Coast versus West Coast battle starts, with Tupac in jail for essay charges. Because remember, Tupac was arrested for the essay. While he was out on bail, he went to the studio to record on Biggie's Artist's album, and he was robbed and he was boomed, you know. So while Tupac is in prison, he's convinced that it was Biggie and it was Diddy that set up the whole robbery, not Ayanna. He thinks that it was the government or Ayanna trying to get a payday that set up Ayanna, but as far as getting robbed at the studio, he's convinced this is Biggie and Diddy. Tupac is convinced that Biggie set him up to be robbed and blasted while he's going through this trial and being set up by a girl who's saying that she was essayed by him. And Tupac is swearing that he has nothing to do with these charges, but he doesn't believe Biggie when he says that he had nothing to do with the charges that he's charging him of. So it's a little, it's a little murky. It's a little not really making much sense, but, we are where we are. Now, this idea that Tupac has that Biggie set him up and Diddy set him up, and if it wasn't him that set him up, it was them that knew about it and didn't give him a warning. That's not just Tupac being paranoid. The rumor that Biggie knew that the robbery was going to happen and had taken a part in it is going around in the neighborhood. In order to know a lot about this case, you have to know one thing. The streets, the neighborhood, the hood, they know a lot more than police know, than the media knows. The people on the block, they know everything. They know why everything happened. They know everything about everything. So when I say it's a rumor, I'm not talking like Mean Girls rumor in the hallway. I'm talking like everybody knows what's going on, and they're saying that it was Biggie. So Tupac's not being paranoid here. He's listening to what his streets are telling him. People are coming into the prison to inform him that it was actually Biggie that set him up. It was actually Biggie that set this entire thing up. Or, at the very least, Biggie knew damn well that Tupac was gonna be robbed and blasted at the studio, and he let it happen. And if that was a friend of yours, if that was somebody that you helped build their career, you'd be pissed too. In March of 1995, Tupac released an album called Me Against the World. The album was released while Tupac was sitting in prison. This is the album that has Dear Mama on it. We talked about the song earlier in part 1 of this episode. This album was a huge deal. The album sold 240,000 copies in its first week, which was like record-breaking at the time. It was huge. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Top 200. The album had like 5 singles on it, which is like absolutely unheard of. Like albums usually have 1, maybe 2 breakout singles. This album had 5. And each of those singles would break records of their own. Shortly after this album was released, Tupac would marry his girlfriend, Keisha Morris, on April 29th, 1995. Tupac met Keisha the same way that he met Ayanna, at a New York City nightclub back in 1994. At the time, Keisha was a student at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and she was working as a camp counselor. So very far removed from Tupac's usual world, the usual people. He's dating Madonna, he's dating Mariah Carey. He meets Keisha Morris, and she's going to school and working as a camp counselor. That is very, very different than the regular circle of people that he's around. So at this nightclub, they dance, they have a wonderful night, they have a wonderful conversation. And now keep in mind, at this time, his name is already on the front page of every newspaper regarding the arrest with Ayanna. So a lot of women are really scared off by that at first glance. Like, oh, you're being accused of essaying a woman? I don't want anything to do with you. But Keisha wasn't scared off about that the way that most women would be. So he really appreciated that. He and Keisha dated for a while, and she stayed with him throughout his imprisonment. They even decided to get married during his time in prison. Tupac was in jail for the wedding. Keisha said that Tupac wanted to get married because his thought process was like, I don't want you saying that you're my girlfriend. I want people to take you seriously and let them know that you're my wife. Later on, Tupac would say that he married Keisha for the wrong reasons. He said that he just didn't want to be alone. He was in jail, he was miserable, and the idea of being alone is something that becomes a lot more prevalent and a lot more apparent when you're in jail. So that was a lot of his reasons and ideas for getting married, is because he didn't want to be alone. And then he said that was the wrong reason, I shouldn't have married her. So they get married in April. Tupac gets out of jail in October. They would have their wedding annulled around March of 1996, just under the 1-year mark of being married. So they got annulled just in the nick of time, because you only have 1 year to get a wedding annulled. Keisha said that she felt like she wasn't needed anymore when he got out of jail. Like, he really needed her when he was in jail, but as soon as he got out, she really wasn't necessary anymore. But even after they got divorced, or they got their wedding annulled, they stayed really close friends. To prove that point, Keisha spent the night before Tupac died with him at his hotel. When he called her and asked her to chill, she was like, no, we got divorced, remember? Like, you wanted a whole ass divorce. Why would we chill? And Tupac responded with, you will always be Mrs. Shakur. Suge Knight would come out and say that if it weren't for Keisha Morris, Tupac would have never been on Death Row Records. And we would have never gotten songs like All Eyes on Me, or a lot of the Tupac hits that came out after this point. And it makes sense why he would say that. It was Keisha that passed along the message to Suge that Tupac needed help, that he was broke, and he was willing to sign with him to get it done, to get out of jail, because he needed that bail. Don't forget that. Now, Suge had been wanting to sign Tupac for a very long time. Like, even when Tupac was with Thug Life, Suge wanted to sign Tupac, but Thug Life was Crips. Suge ran into Tupac and he said he wanted to sign him, but Tupac said that he wasn't really ready to sign with him. He didn't want to do it yet. But Suge said, I always respected him, I always liked him, and that's probably why Tupac had Keisha reach out to Suge when he got into a bind, when he was in jail. He's sitting in jail, he needs bail to get out of jail. He goes to Keisha, he has Keisha go to Suge because he knows Suge wants to sign him, and he doesn't have any other way to get out of jail. Now, immediately upon getting that message from Keisha Morris, Suge turns around and he puts $15,000 on Tupac's books. And obviously, that makes Tupac happy. That's going to make anybody that's sitting in jail happy. So Tupac gives Keisha a message that he wants to have a meeting with Suge. So he tells Keisha, go tell Suge I want to have a meeting. Come see me. Let's talk. Now, of course, Suge Knight is frothing at the mouth at this opportunity. And he hopped on a plane immediately. He came to the prison to visit Tupac multiple times. And one of those times that he came to visit just so happened to be August 3rd, 1995, when he would go from the prison visiting Tupac to the Source Awards, which we're going to go over in a few minutes. Now, as much as this is a really, really short wedding, a short marriage for Tupac, Tupac really trusted Keisha, and he would have her handle all of his affairs while he was in jail. During their relationship, and even before he went to jail, he was staying at Keisha's apartment in Harlem. When Tupac got blasted outside of the studio, at the very same time as he was getting robbed outside of that studio, Keisha's apartment was also getting robbed in Harlem. The problem with that? The robbers did not break into the house. They used a key to get into the apartment. How could that be? Tupac said the only person that he gave a key to the house to was Stretch. So obviously, that's the first person that he looked into when he was looking into this robbery, was Stretch. Stretch was a member of Thug Life, Tupac's rap group. And this right here was the final nail in the coffin that would make Tupac leave Thug Life and go out on his own and pursue his own solo career as a rap artist, is because Stretch was the only person that had a key to Keisha Morris's apartment. So how is Keisha Morris's apartment getting robbed at the very same time that Tupac's getting robbed outside of the studio? This is obviously a very planned, very coordinated attack on Tupac and his entire life. When the apartment was robbed, they weren't even married yet. They were just dating. People just knew Tupac was living at Keisha Morris's apartment. And her apartment is getting robbed at the very same time that he's getting blasted outside the studio. After what happened at the studio, Tupac never returned to Keisha's apartment. He left Keisha's apartment to go to Quad Studios, and he never returned to that apartment. He would go to hotels, and he would have Keisha stay with him at the hotel, but he never went back to the apartment after that day. Between him getting blasted at Quad Studios and thinking that it was Biggie, and thinking that Biggie and Puffy set him up, and then Keisha's apartment getting robbed while Quad Studios was going on, and the only person having a key to that was Stretch, and the person that robbed Keisha's apartment getting into the apartment with a key. Between all of that happening at one time, there was nobody left in the world that Tupac felt like he could trust. So now while all of this is going on and Tupac is sitting in jail, he's seeing all this success. He has this record-breaking record come out. And that's all great and fine and well and good and everything, but shit's not going well for him or his family on the outside. His mom is about to lose her house. He has a $1 million+ bail that will get him out of jail tomorrow and stop all his suffering that he's going through, but he can't come up with the money. Nobody wants to sign him. Nobody wants to play his music. Everything is going south for him. And this is where we need to stop and we need to talk about one of the most important figures in the Tupac Shakur story. And I'm going to tell you a story about how he got here. And I've already mentioned him a few times in this episode, but we're going to stop right here and we're going to go from square one. The person that we need to talk about is Suge Knight because he's super, super important in Tupac's story. Most people say that there was a downfall of Tupac and that the downfall happened after Tupac signed with Suge Knight's record label, Death Row Records. Now, realistically speaking, if you've ever heard of Tupac Shakur, 99.999% chance you've heard of Suge Knight. So I'm not sitting here and pretending that I'm like introducing you to a new character. Like you guys know who Suge Knight is. If you're not already super, super aware of it, I'm gonna go through, but we're just gonna do a quick recap on Suge as a person. But as I said, I know I'm not introducing you to like a new name. There's nobody in here that's like, oh, who's Suge? No, you know who Suge Knight is. Let's just go through everything about him here, okay? Marion Hugh Knight, or Suge Knight as he goes by, was born on April 19th, 1965. Suge Knight started off as a football player. He attended UNLV, or University of Las Vegas, college, and he did a brief stint in the NFL for the Los Angeles Rams, playing 2 whole games during this time, okay? It's super impressive. 2 whole games. He was only there because he was a strike breaker. He played as a replacement player during the 1987 NFL Players' Strike, and then as soon as the real boys came back, he got kicked right out. So he goes and plays in the NFL, and obviously this is every little boy's dream. Everybody wants to play in the NFL. He is living his dream. He plays in the NFL, but then he leaves the NFL because the strike ends, and the real players are back to business as usual, so Suge goes on and he leaves. So then he starts to go and work as a concert promoter and a bodyguard for like a lot of different celebrities. The most well-known of them being Bobby Brown. Now, Suge is a gigantic dude. He's scary looking, so it makes sense that he'd work well as a bodyguard. So during this time that he's being a bodyguard and he's doing concert promotion, he decides that he wants to be an artist manager. And the first big thing that happens for him in this venture is that he was able to sign Vanilla Ice. And he got Vanilla Ice to sign over the royalties from his hit song, Ice Ice Baby. Now, officially, the way that he got Vanilla Ice to sign over the royalties was that Suge Knight worked with Marion Johnson. Johnson helped to write Ice Ice Baby, so there was his in. He got with Vanilla Ice that way. There's a lot of rumors that this opportunity did not come in a, let's say, a moral way. There's rumors that Suge Knight had been approaching Vanilla Ice about the royalties to this song for a really long time. And when he got rejected, Suge and his boys came over to Vanilla Ice's hotel room and dangled him by the ankles off of a balcony in the hotel room until Vanilla Ice agreed to give him the rights to the song and the royalties to Ice Ice Baby. Vanilla Ice did say that this didn't happen, but he also said that Knight did threatened to throw him off of a balcony. So, we gotta take what each party says with a grain of salt. So the big break comes, he gets the rights to Ice Ice Baby, and after that he formed a management company that signed DJ Quick and the DOC. And these two guys are members of a rap group called NWA. And if you don't know what that stands for, go Google it. I'm not going through it, okay? NWA is the name of the band, of the rap group, whatever. We're not going through it. Now, NWA was really the group that brought the Bloods and the Crips out into the open and made them household names. Before this, the general public didn't really know who the Bloods and the Crips were. If you're listening to this video, you know who the Bloods and the Crips are, okay? And you know who they are because of the influence that this group gave to the gangs. Now, as Suge worked with the DOC, he got connected with Dr. Dre because he too was in NWA. And these two guys did not want to be in NWA anymore, and they didn't want to be with their current record label, Ruthless Records. The guy running Ruthless Records was Eazy-E. And when Eazy-E wouldn't release these artists from their label and Suge wanted them, Suge played the same game that he played with Vanilla Ice. He headed over to Eazy-E's place with his boys. They also may have had some lead pipes and baseball bats. And he got both Dr. Dre and the DOC out of their record label contracts, and they were then signed with Suge. So now he's got these two huge acts. Like, this is big. Everybody alive knows who Dr. Dre is. And Suge Knight gets together with these two artists, and collectively, they start a new record label, Death Row Records. When they originally started the record label, the whole point was they wanted to make it the Motown of the 90s. Now, almost as soon as the label started, there's a public beef going on. Death Row Records goes up against Luther Campbell, a member of the 2 Live crew. Now, interestingly enough, Luther Campbell would go on to open a nightclub in Las Vegas, Club 662. Keep that in mind. This is the answers to the test here, okay? You know when you're in school and there's a teacher writing on the chalkboard and they tell you something and they're like, hey, remember this fact, it's going to come up again. And you know it's usually gonna come up again, like it's probably gonna be on the test. Remember the name of Campbell's nightclub, Club 662, okay? You will hear it again, I promise you. So anyways, 662 is a reference to the Bloods. Back then in the 90s, we had these nifty little cell phones. And if you wanted to text somebody on these cell phones, you had to press a bunch of numbers to get to each letter. For example, if you wanted to text someone, hey, you had to type 4433999, okay? It was a whole long process. And it kept text messages really short and sweet and to the point because it was annoying as hell to try to text anything lengthy. So even if you were like I was a pro at that, okay? I was great at the texting with the numbers. But even if you're a pro at it, it's annoying as hell to try to do it. So everybody just kind of kept their text messages short, sweet, to the point, didn't really go crazy. So 662 is a reference to the letters MOB, which would be the number 6, the number 666, and the number 22. Pull up your dial pad. I don't know what they're freaking called. Your number pad, whatever. Type in 6 and then 666 and then 22. You're going to get MOB. But you're not going to make that the name of your club. So you just take out the doubles and you've got 662. MOB. Member of Bloods. Get it? You got it. I get it. I know you get it. Another thing that 662 is attributed to, it's California's penal code for death row. Funny that Suge Knight's enemy would start a club called 662, a code name for Death Row, aka Death Row Records, but whatever, we're not going to get caught up on that. Just remember the number 662, okay? Remember the club is called 662. It's important for later in this episode, I promise. So while all of this beef is going on, Suge Knight and Death Row Records are creating absolute stars, and they're getting super famous. The label signs with Interscope Records and releases its first album, Dr. Dre's 1992 solo album, The Chronic, and this album goes wild. By the end of 1993, this album has hit triple platinum status, which is gigantic. So this album comes out and it does amazingly. It goes triple platinum. That's huge. And one other thing that this album got really right was that it launched the career of one of the label's most well-known artists, one that you 100% know and love today, Snoop Dogg. After Dre's album comes out and Snoop is on the album, he comes out and he releases his own album, Doggy Style. And this album does even better. It hits quadruple platinum. So Death Row Records is just stacking up records and they're doing great. And this is becoming a gigantic label. The members of this label are gigantic themselves, and they just feel like they're taking over the world. But while they're taking over the world, there's yet another beef brewing under the surface. And of course there is, okay? You don't get a gangster dude that's out there signing people by hanging them by their ankles off of balconies and threatening label executives with lead pipes and baseball bats. Give them all the success in the world, and then just expect things to go smoothly. Like, do you? If you do, you might not be the brightest crayon in the box, okay? You knew this was coming. You knew things weren't going to go smoothly. You knew there was going to be beef. So all of this is going on. Death Row is blowing up. It's becoming gigantically successful. And while this is happening, Suge Knight sets its sights on the next person that he really, really wants to sign to his label, an artist named Tupac Shakur. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you here. I've always kind of had this feeling. But after reading up on Suge Knight and who he is as a person and what happened and what made him famous, as I said, it's always something I've thought of, but I never said out loud. But now that I've done all this reading and I've done all this researching, I'm just going to say it. I fully believe that it wasn't Haitian Jack and it wasn't Ayanna that set Tupac up for the hotel thing. I think it was Suge. Why? Well, Suge Knight really wanted to sign Tupac. He'd been approaching him for a while, he was trying to woo him, he was doing everything he could to get Tupac on his label. But Tupac wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. He just kept moving, he wanted nothing to do with Suge Knight. But Suge made sure he was a presence in Tupac's life, and he let him know that he would always be there if he ever needed anything. But why would Tupac ever need anything? He's on top of the world, he's selling albums, he's appearing in movies, he is just getting bigger and bigger as the day goes by. This boy is well on his way to success, and he's doing it completely on his own. He doesn't need all the mess that comes with Death Row Records. Like, the Vanilla Ice thing, that's a lawsuit. It is very famous that Death Row is not exactly law-abiding citizens. And Tupac doesn't want to mess with Death Row Records and the super problematic people that are in it. That is, until Tupac gets jammed up on these charges, and he's sitting in jail not able to make his $1.4 million bail. His bail started out at $3 million, but I'm guessing the bail decreases as you live out your sentence. I don't know. If this made any sense whatsoever, I would know the rules, but I've never heard of having a bail once you're already in jail, so who knows? So now that everything has gone wrong, well then he remembers Suge Knight, this super famous, super powerful, and most importantly, super rich dude that's been begging him to come to his label. Now, I'm not saying that I have any proof of this. I'm not saying it's a fact. I am saying it's super convenient that this really sketchy dude that has proven over and over and over again that he'll do absolutely anything that it takes to get whatever he wants is the only person that's able to come and solve all of these problems that Tupac is claiming never even happened, and it's all a setup. I'm also saying that when I Google absolutely anything about this, I don't see the idea of this happening ever even being theorized. And I can't be the first person to put these pieces together. I can't be the first and only person to ever wonder if this is what happened. So what the hell is happening to all of these other people that are wondering about this? What happened to all the other people that theorized this? I don't know. Either way, Tupac's sitting in jail. He has this bail over his head. He has no way to post it. So he has his wife go to this rich benefactor that's been chasing after him all this time. And this guy, this rich benefactor, has absolutely no problem posting this gigantic bail amount and getting him out of jail. The only caveat is that he has to sign with his record label, Death Row Records. Now, why is Suge the only person that can intervene here? Well, he's the only person that's still interested, honestly. A crazy side effect of being convicted of the big R word is that every single professional person on the planet puts distance between themselves and you. No label, no record manager, no regular manager, no anybody wants anything to do with Tupac. He's just been found guilty of the R word. So he's completely on his own here, and his life is falling apart. But Suge, the dude that's willing to take a bat to a record label's head to get an artist, yeah, he has no problem with supposed R-worders, especially if he set him up to be one in the first place. Now, after Tupac signs with Suge, he's surrounded by Bloods everywhere. Suge has absolutely no problem telling the entire public and the entire world that he's a Blood, a member of the mob Pyrus. Eazy-E was a Crip, which is probably why things popped off so hard and so fast between Suge and Eazy-E. Now, one thing that you do gotta know is that there's no place in America where gangs face off harder and faster and more intensely than two very distinct places. New York and California. Doesn't matter what gang it is, doesn't matter what, it's always going to be in those two places. There's always going to be huge populations of those gangs in those two places. The Crips were really big in Compton, and one of their leaders in Compton is a man named Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. Now, the Source Awards held in New York City on August 3rd, 1995. Do you remember that date? That's the date that I said earlier that Suge had gone to the prison to visit Tupac, left the prison, and headed straight for the Source Awards. Let's talk about what happened at the Source Awards. Because I don't see this talked about or theorized like ever, and it's very weird. A lot of the time I see people saying, oh, Tupac teamed up because it just so happened that Suge Knight had issues with Diddy and Biggie, and Tupac had issues with Diddy and Biggie, so they just teamed up. I don't believe that to be the case at all. And I think if you think that's the case, you're either intentionally ignoring facts or you're not reading deep enough. You're not looking at enough information. I fully believe that Suge Knight manufactured the beef with Diddy in order to try to lure Tupac onto his label faster. Oh, look, I have beef with Diddy. Don't you also have beef with Diddy? Hey, common enemy, let's be friends. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And it was fully manufactured on Tupac's behalf. And let's stop here and talk about this real quick because it's making me absolutely crazy. Okay? I have these content creators that I love. I love these guys. Like, I have so much respect for them. But every time I watch one of these content creators or I read an article written by a journalist, it seems like they're ignoring facts, and I don't understand why they're ignoring them. It seems so simple to me. It's so clear. It's in black and white right in front of your face. How could you possibly not see this? How can you not say it? Why am I the first person saying this? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Why can't I find these theories anywhere else? Is it because of how scary Suge Knight is? Like, yeah, he's in prison. I get that. Doesn't he have a YouTube podcast right now in prison? I'm sure he has boys on the outside, and I'm sure that's really, really scary. But is that the reason that all the content creators, all the journalists, all the cops, everybody making all of this media, is that the reason that they're just intentionally ignoring the facts that are right in front of their face? Are they just that scared of Suge Knight? I don't get it. The only answer that I can come up with is that all of your favorite content creators are scared. I don't know. Or they're not reading enough. I feel the same way that I feel about these content creators that come out and they do commercials for these software things. Like, I had backed out of it. I was hired to do a commercial for this antivirus thing, and it literally crashed everything of mine. My phone, my computer, every single thing that it was on, it crashed. It was horrible, 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 horrible. And because of that, I lost trust in every single content creator that I see making commercials for this brand, and I'm seeing it all the time. Every content creator you know is doing commercials for this brand that's just horrific and going to destroy every computer that you have, every computer, every phone, and they're actively promoting it to you knowing that. And those are the same people that are just assuming that this is a sheer coincidence. Oh my God, it's so funny. Suge Knight had beef with Diddy and Tupac had beef with Diddy, so they teamed up to have beef with Diddy together. That's not what happened. They may be too scared to say it, but honestly, I'm not big enough to be scared. Like, I don't have enough of an audience to sit here and be shivering about Suge Knight coming after me. I'm a nobody. Suge Knight's never gonna come after me. He's never gonna see this video. So I'll tell you plain well and as plainly as I can, Suge Knight never had beef with Diddy. The only reason he had beef with Diddy was to try to lure Tupac in. I've done so much research on this subject to try to get these videos together for you, and I've only seen one reporter ever agree with me and state the obvious. So let's state the obvious together, and let's not be scared of Suge Knight, okay? Shall we? Yes? Let's talk about the Source Awards. So what goes down at these Source Awards? Suge Knight takes the stage and just plainly and clearly insults P. Diddy on the stage. He comes on the stage and he goes on this rant. He says,
any artists out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
Any any artist out there that wants to be an artist and wants to be a star and doesn't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be in all the videos, on all the records, dancing, come to Death Row Records. Now, this is a clear shot at Diddy. Diddy is doing a lot of videos with Biggie at Bad Boy Records. He's in the background of these music videos. They're featuring each other on their songs. This is very clearly an insult to P. Diddy. And it was very random. Suge Knight used to be friends with Diddy. Like, these guys are boys. Why the hell is he throwing these shots? But they are shots. These are the shots that started the war. Unbeknownst to Bad Boy Records and the whole crowd that was with them, Tupac had agreed to sign with Death Row Records that day. And Tupac had beef with Bad Boys since he was convinced that Biggie and Diddy had something to do with him getting robbed outside of Quad Studios. So now, since Tupac has beef, and Tupac is now a Death Row Records artist, now Death Row Records has beef with Bad Boys. Bad Boys has no idea what is going on. They have no friggin' clue. They're like, what the hell? Why is this guy coming at me on stage? It makes no sense. This is my boy. So they have absolutely no idea why Suge Knight is throwing shots at them right in their face during his speech. But he's all but staring at them while he's doing it, and nobody has any idea why. Now, while at face value, it appears that Suge Knight has beef with Puff because he's in music videos and he's at a competing company, anybody with eyes that can read and can see what's going on can tell that the beef with Puff is starting right around the time that Suge Knight is about to sign Tupac onto his label. That is as plain as I can tell you guys, okay? Suge Knight set it up. Suge Knight wants Tupac to sign to his label. Tupac finally agrees to sign to his label on August 3rd, and then the beef between Suge Knight and Diddy is manufactured to show Tupac that Suge Knight is a ride or die for him. He'll start beef with Biggie and Diddy. He doesn't care. He'll go to war. It's not a coincidence, and anybody that tells you that it is a coincidence either is scared to tell you the truth or doesn't know the truth. It isn't an enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. This is 100% manufactured on Tupac's behalf. Suge Knight has made it very well known that there's nothing that he wouldn't do to get Tupac on his label. All the while, Tupac is sitting there comparing Biggie to Hitler and assuming that it was the government behind his arrest. I fully believe that it was Suge Knight at the heart of every single issue that Tupac has ever had, including the arrest that got him put in jail in the first place, this beef with Biggie and Diddy, and ultimately, the hit that would take his life. So Suge Knight throws these opening shots at Diddy at the Source Awards. A month later, on September 15th, 1995, only 1 month after the Source Awards, Tupac signs an official paper stating the following. Suge Knight is to be my manager for all future endeavors for a period of 3 years. Suge will give a contract to be entered into by and between Tupac Shakur and Death Row Records, which will include the following deal points. Album 1, to be released in 1995. Album to consist of album record material to be recorded by Dr. Dre, Snoop Doggy Dogg shall make a guest appearance on said album. Tupac shall receive the following advances. $1 million upon execution of document. $125,000 for respective of care. $120,000 expense allowance for 12 months. Now, this piece of paper that he's signing, this is huge for Tupac because he's sitting in jail on $1 million bond at the time. He wants to get the hell out of jail, a bond that he's not able to come up with. He wanted out. So signing this agreement where Suge will hand him $1 million as soon as he signs this document means that Tupac gets out of jail, and he's pretty much willing to do anything to get out of jail. It won't make a dent in his legal fees. He's still going to be in a lot of financial trouble, but he won't be sitting in prison. If any of you guys have ever sat in prison and had a way out that you just don't have access to, you would understand, like, there's literally nothing that you won't do, especially a jail, like a maximum security prison in upstate New York. There's literally nothing that you wouldn't do. There's no thing that would stand between you and getting out of prison. It's miserable. Less than 1 month after he signed this paper, on October 12, 1995, Tupac was officially released from jail. The label posted his $1.4 million bail, and he was released after serving 10 months of his minimum year and a half in prison. Suge picked up Tupac from prison in a limo. He brought him to the airport, where he whisked him away to California, and a brand new relationship began. And now this is where people point to when Tupac gets gigantic in his career. Like, he had already been a star. But this is where he blows up into superstardom. This is where people say that Tupac became a real gangster and started being surrounded by a group of elite bloods, which is kind of funny because you find way more pictures of Tupac in a blue bandana than wearing red, but you know, whatever. It's fucking, I don't know, nothing. Tupac would be dead within 1 year of this plane ride. Even though Who Shot Ya was recorded way before Tupac was ever actually robbed or shot at, Pac heard this song and he took it to be delivered directly to him. And he took it pretty much as an admission of guilt. Biggie's way of bragging about the fact that he had him robbed and shot. And now, is it completely unbelievable that this song could have been written, produced, and completed, all the while knowing that this was going to happen to Tupac, but just like way before it actually happened? Absolutely. Everybody writes this off and says like, well, there's no way that Biggie could have written this about Tupac since he wrote the song and the song came out before Tupac ever actually got robbed. But when they say this, they fail to mention that when this went down, this song was put out after Tupac had come out and publicly bashed Haitian Jack and said that it was him that set him up. So it's absolutely 100% possible that the song was always about Tupac because he knew that Tupac was going to get jumped at the studio before he actually got jumped at the studio. And now, am I saying that's the case? No, I don't know. But I am saying that just because the song was made and came out before Tupac actually got jumped doesn't mean that it couldn't possibly be about Tupac. Because if Haitian Jack had his people looking for Tupac for a month and the song came out during that time, that's still about Tupac because he knows it's coming. Now, this song coming out from Biggie started off a volley of diss tracks that would go back and forth between the two. Tupac responded with Hit 'Em Up, where he literally calls Biggie out by name and even said that he had schmecks with his wife. Fast forward to 2025 and Jaguar Wright backs up this claim. She says that Tupac did in fact have schmecks with Faith Evans, Biggie's wife. Now, around this time, Tupac starts coming out publicly and talking about a new management company that him and Suge Knight are starting up called Death Row East. As much as Tupac is saying that he doesn't really have beef with Diddy or Biggie and that there's no East Coast versus West Coast beef going on, this is pretty obviously a direct shot at Bad Boy Records. They want the artists on the East Coast, the ones that Diddy perceived to be his people, his artists, his prospects. And now, after these songs start to come out, shit starts going down for real on the streets. You ever hear about the confrontation where Diddy took out the dude with J-Lo on his arm? Let's talk about that for a minute, because that's wild. A month after the award shows, so around the time that Pac is signing with Suge, a bunch of background people start to beef in the streets. They start to see each other in a club. Jake Robles, Suge Knight's really close friend and his bodyguard, is taken out on September 24th, 1995 at a birthday party at Platinum House in Atlanta. Robles is one of Suge Knight's boys, a really close friend of his, and a Mob Piru blood. The leading theory is that one of Diddy's bodyguards, Anthony Wolf Jones, is the one that took out Robles. And this is no secret. This is coming up on the front page of newspapers. So it's not like this is just like conspiracy or the streets talking. This is coming up literally on the front of the New York Times. Suge comes out and he says that Robles is taken out because of Diddy. And now, instead of this rap battle or these innuendos or people getting up on stage at award shows, this turns into a real life war. This is no longer just like for the media. This is no longer a funny haha. This is people actually getting hurt, and somebody is actually dead after this. And now at this point, the real people are getting pulled into it. The real gangsters that are on the block. Recently, Tupac had sat down with the leaders of the Bloods and the Crips in California and had helped them to iron out a peace treaty. But with this beef, it's starting to look like that peace treaty is off the table. After this happened, Diddy's people start getting beaten up and like really pressed for information about him. As far as what other people say, because I don't have any proof of this, you know, I don't know anything more than the next Joe Schmo knows, okay? But at the same time, this person has made confessions on the record with the police. So I could pretty confidently say that this is what happened. So at this point in time, Diddy goes out and he seeks out Keefe D, the one that we talked about earlier, a well-known Crip in New York. And he goes to seek out Keefe D as backup against Suge and these elite bloods that him and Tupac have behind him. So now at this time, according to Keefe D, Diddy offered to pay Keefe $1 million to take out Suge, Tupac, and all of the other guys that are involved in this because they're scared. At this point, right now, let's look at what's going on right now. Right now, according to them, from their point of view, somebody got taken out at a party and Suge Knight thinks it's Diddy. And whether or not it really was Diddy, Diddy's scared. Like, this is some serious shit going on. This is not, oh, we're gonna beef on songs. Like, this is the stuff that gets you taken out in real life. So Diddy's scared. So Diddy goes to Keefe D and he's like, yo, just $1 million, take out this whole crew. Originally, it was only Suge, but then it turned into, you know, let's add all of these people onto it. Right now, at this very time, I'm recording this on April 29th, 2025. Right now, at this time, Keefe D is on trial for the murder of Tupac Shakur. He was arrested in September of 2023, and trial is set to begin in February of 2026. Keefe is on trial because Keefe D is a whole idiot, but we'll go over that in the beef episode. I'm not going to go over that right now. We will go over it, just not right now. In July of 1996, Trayvon Trey Lane is at the Foot Locker in the Lakewood Mall in California. And he's at the Foot Locker with a few of his blood buddies. If he's a blood, he's on Suge Knight's side, okay? Pretty much put it this way, okay? The West Coast is the Bloods. The East Coast is the Crips. That's really the separation that it seems to be here. Biggie is with the Crips. Tupac is with the Bloods. So in July of 1996, Trayvon Trey Lane is at the Foot Locker. Him and his blood buddies are at Foot Locker. They're looking to get some new shoes. While he's at the Foot Locker, he has on this really expensive chain. Suge Knight had this chain. It has like a medallion of Death Row Records, handed it out to all of his closest friends. Trey Lane got one of these necklaces and he's walking around with it. A bunch of Crips walk into the store and they see these 3 Bloods sitting there, and there's like 6 or 7, 8 of these Crips, and they go and they beat the absolute life out of these Bloods. And in this beating, they take Trey Lane's necklace, the one that Suge Knight gave him. On September 7th, 1996, so only a few months later, Tupac and Suge Knight head to the MGM Grand Casino, and they go to see a boxing match where Mike Tyson is fighting Bruce Seldon. Now, just for the record, Seldon got knocked out in round 1, if you're curious, because I was curious. I heard it. I didn't know who was fighting. I just knew it was a Mike Tyson fight. Bruce Seldon is fighting Mike Tyson, and Bruce Seldon gets taken out round 1. So while they're at the MGM Grand Casino, Trey Lane sees somebody interesting. He spots out Orlando Anderson. Orlando Anderson is Keefe D's nephew. And now, this time is much different than at the Foot Locker. Trey Lane now has his boys with him. And you know, you're a whole different person when you got your boys around, right? You have 2 of your friends and you're going up against 8 of them. That's a whole different situation than when you have 15 of your dudes and there's 3 of them. So he's got a whole different tone to his voice today. Trey Lane, this time around, he has him, Suge Knight, Tupac, and there's a whole bunch of Mob Piru Bloods around him. So he's got a little bit more bass in his voice today. He gives everybody around him a heads up on who Orlando Anderson is. Not only is this Keefe D's nephew, but he's one of the Crips that took part in stomping him out and taking his chain at the Foot Locker a few months earlier. When Tupac hears this, he goes ahead and he attacks Anderson. And after he attacks Anderson, the whole Death Row squad starts stomping on this boy, and Orlando Anderson is attacked by this whole group of people. Once security arrives and tries to break up the fight, the Death Row boys go running, and by the time the real police show up, nobody but Anderson is left at the scene of the crime, and Anderson obviously is going to refuse to press charges. But he's absolutely not done with this incident. Now, Orlando Anderson, who is he? He's a Southside Crip. This attack, not the smartest idea on Tupac's part. Because what's the first phone call that Orlando Anderson is going to make? The first thing he does is pick up the phone and dial Uncle Keefe D. and he calls Uncle Keefy D and he says, hey, guess what? I just got attacked. I just got jumped by a whole bunch of mob Pyrus, and your boy Suge Knight and Tupac were there, and Tupac threw the first punch. So Keefy D gets this phone call. He's made aware that his nephew has just been beaten up, attacked out of nowhere, and jumped. So he goes, he picks up his nephew, and Keefy D, Orlando Anderson, and 2 other Southside Crips hop in a white Cadillac, and they head towards a nightclub, Club 662. Remember this club? Earlier in this episode, I kept telling you, remember the name, Club 662. Remember how the numbers 662 line up with the members of Blood? Very same club. What a coincidence, right? I told you it would be important to remember those numbers. So now see, it turns out this club that was originally started by Suge Knight's enemy, this club has since turned into a hotspot for Vegas's Blood population. And that is exactly where this little caravan of Suge Knight, Tupac, and all of his boys, that's where this caravan is headed, to Club 662. And now this is a perfect opportunity for Keefy D. Yay, happy dance, woohoo! Not only can he retaliate for his nephew just catching a beating, but he can also go fulfill the order that Diddy had made to give him $1 million to take out these death row guys. So what do? Obviously, this group of 4 dudes in the white Cadillac head over to Club 662. So the Southside gang shows up at 662 and they're sitting around outside 662 waiting for Tupac and Suge to pull up. And they're waiting around for like 20 minutes, and when the death row guys don't show up, they get tired of waiting and they decide that they're gonna go hunt around town and find them. It doesn't take too long before they happen upon a convoy, and in that convoy, they spot Tupac's BMW in the midst of these cars. Suge is in the driver's seat of the BMW, Tupac is in the passenger seat, and there's cars ahead of them and behind them that belong with this group. This little convoy that Tupac is in is 5 cars deep. There's 1 car ahead of him, 3 cars behind him, and including his car, there's 5. 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5. So the little convoy, they come to a red light and they're stopped. They're stopped at a red light on Flamingo Road. And just a quick side note, Flamingo, remember that from our Virginia Hill episode? And I feel like this is a very small world moment. It's like all the pieces find their way together. Who would have thought that we'd be discussing Bugsy Siegel in a Tupac Shakur episode? So ironically, it was Tupac's own fans that would end up getting him offed. They stood there like idiots screaming his name, and that's what alerted the people that were in the white caddy that this was in fact Tupac's crew. Out of the 5 cars, they were able to spot the BMW because Tupac and Suge always drove in this BMW, but they would have had no idea that these 5 cars belonged to Tupac if there wasn't people on the side of the road screaming his name. So let's set the stage here. It's 11:17 p.m. They are stopped at a red light. They're stopped at this red light on Flamingo Road. At this time, Tupac is in the passenger seat of the car, and he's talking to a car full of girls on the left-hand side of the car. They're stuck in traffic. They're at a red light. What else are you going to do? Obviously, he's going to be, talking to people around him, and he's flirting a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a bunch of people on the side of the street that are screaming Tupac's name, so the white caddy has been alerted that Tupac is in fact sitting here, and they come up on the driver's side of the car. So now this white caddy that has 4 people in it pulls up on the driver's side of the car, and Orlando Anderson leans out of the back seat of the car, and he starts blasting into the driver's side of the car. Anderson unloads a volley of shots into the BMW where Tupac and Suge are sitting at a red light. Now, Suge Knight immediately realizes that he's being blasted at, and he ducks down. Tupac realizes it, but he realizes it a little bit too late. When he realizes he's getting blasted at, he jumps out of the passenger seat and tries to jump into the back seat for cover. On his way from the passenger seat into the back seat, he catches 4 holes to the chest. During this volley of shots, Knight got grazed in his head, so he has a little bit of a graze in his head, but it doesn't stop him from taking the BMW and maneuvering it. He pulls a U-turn and he gets out of there. But his head is like below the steering wheel, so he's not looking out the windshield. He has no idea where this car is going. He just knows he needs to get the hell out of there. The BMW runs into a curb and it stops just up the road. All of the cars in the caravan, so remember, there's Tupac and Suge's car first in line and then 3 behind him, all of the cars pulled the same U-turn and followed the car because they just witnessed this go on. Cops arrived pretty quickly, but when the cops arrived, they treated the people in Tupac's caravan as if they were suspect. They pulled everybody out, they had everybody lined up, and they were all the suspects. They were the ones that popped the shots off, which never really made any sense. And while they're interrogating the people in Tupac's caravan, the white Cadillac was able to just ride off into the sunset. It was no secret just who took out Tupac. You know how the neighborhood always knows the answers way before police do? Yeah, everybody knew exactly who, what, when, where, and why Tupac got offed. Tupac decided to pop off and beat the hell out of a real-life Crip. Not one that parades around wearing opposing gang colors on their bandana screaming thug life right out of theater school, a real Crip. One that has no problem throwing actual shots, and that's what actually happened. Pac stomped out Anderson, Anderson took out Pac. Pac did not go right away. He was rushed to the nearby Las Vegas Medical Center, the UMC Trauma and Pediatric Center, and he was quickly wheeled into surgery. He had his right lung removed, and they would revive him multiple times, but eventually Afeni made the decision to stop resuscitation efforts and just let what was gonna be. Doctors did all they could, but 6 days after this attack, it was announced that Tupac did not make it and he succumbed to his injuries. At the end of the day, the real target of this hit was Suge Knight. Anderson and the 4 dudes in the caddy, they were gunning for Suge Knight. Was it a bonus to get Tupac? Sure. But at the end of the day, every single one of Tupac's problems stemmed from one person. What ultimately took him out stemmed from one person, and that was the person that was sitting in the driver's seat of the car that he was offed in. Okay, so that is all we've got for Tupac Shakur. Next week, we'll start our series on Biggie, and then we'll do an episode about the beef that would ultimately leave these 2 megastars dead before the age of 30. Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, follow, do all the things, and I'll see you next week. Bye.